Jen Psaki offers up a bizarre statement regarding Joe Biden's lack of trips to the border. Twitter suspends Republican Representative Jim Banks for following the science. Plus, momentum continues to build for Glenn Youngkin in the Virginia governor's race. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
God bless the United States of America.
Okay, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, because she was certainly busy leading into the weekend by trying to spin something positive from all of Joe Biden's misstatements during a CNN town hall event. It's been months since Biden has held a formal press conference. And as the policy failures mount, rather than just addressing them before the American people at a press conference, Biden called up his buddies at CNN and put together an invitation-only town hall. Of the 12 questions that were asked, only 2 came from Republicans, and those were in the last 20 minutes of the hour-and-a-half event. But even in this controlled setting, Biden still managed to look stiff and at times incoherent as he stumbled through the questions. Even CNN moderator Anderson Cooper had to help Biden from time to time. Then on Friday, Jen Psaki had to step in and try to explain exactly what Biden was saying. And here's the story. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki spent Friday's daily press briefing clarifying multiple misstatements by President Biden the night before during a CNN town hall. Ms. Psaki walked back Mr. Biden's boast that he will use the National Guard to fix the supply chain crisis, noting the administration isn't even considering such a step. She also indicated that the president overstated the U.S. position on defending Taiwan and clarified his comment that he's been to the U.S. border with Mexico. So, in just that short intro to the story, we have Biden raising eyebrows with a statement on Taiwan, a completely false statement about the National Guard and the supply chain failures, and a comment about visiting the U.S.-Mexico border. Is it any wonder why Biden stays hidden? Look at the mess we're in, and it spans issue after issue after issue, and people actually voted for this guy. Here's more. During the town hall, Mr. Biden said he would send the National Guard to alleviate supply chain issues that have disrupted the economy and left store shelves bare. Asked if he would consider sending troops to drive trucks, Mr. Biden responded, yes, if we can't increase the number of truckers, and said he had a timetable for calling in the Guard. Ms. Psaki explained to reporters that using the National Guard is not on the table. While she noted that the president can call on the National Guard on the federal level, it is typically activated at the request of state governors. She added that the administration has no plans to use the Guard to address the supply chain bottlenecks. Using the National Guard is not on the table. It sure didn't sound like that according to Biden. During the town hall, Biden was asked why he hasn't visited the southern border. Here was his response.
Do you have plans to visit the southern border?
I've been there before, and I haven't. I mean, I know it well. I guess I should go down, but the whole point of it is I haven't had a whole hell of a lot of time to get down. I've been spending time going around looking at the $900 billion worth of damage done by hurricanes and floods and weather and traveling around the world. But I plan on, now my wife Jill has been down.
What can you even say to that? His wife has been down? I just don't know where to even start. In his entire career as senator, vice president, and president, there has not been one documented border trip or tour. Nothing. So the question is, how is Jen Psaki going to spin that one? She was asked by Fox News' Peter Doocy why Biden said he'd visited the border before. Here was her response.
Well, Peter, as you may have seen, there's been reporting that he did drive through the border when he was on the campaign trail in 2008, and he is certainly familiar with the fact, and it stuck with him, with the fact that in El Paso, the border goes right through the center of town.
You know, now that I think about it, I'm not sure which comment was worse, Biden's or Psaki's clarification. First, she talks about reports that Biden drove through the border. Reports? She doesn't know? She's the White House press secretary. Then she honestly actually said that the fact that the border runs through El Paso is something that stuck with Biden as he drove through. Driving through El Paso on a campaign stop is not a border tour. Here's more.
There is a focus right now on a photo op. The president does not believe a photo op is the same as solutions.
But he said,
that may be a difference he has with Republicans.
But that's not what he said either. He said, I guess I should go down. So does he think that he needs a photo op? Is that what he's saying?
He doesn't. And that's a fundamental disagreement he has.
Score one for Ducey on that one. Psaki said Biden doesn't need a photo op, but at the town hall, Biden said he did need to go, but he's too busy. So the two things to take away from this, apparently, is that the president's wife visited the border and Joe Biden drove through it. Leadership in action. All right, so next let's talk about Twitter and its embrace of non-science. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Okay, let's talk about Twitter because the company has suspended the account of Republican Representative Jim Banks for violation of Twitter's hateful conduct policy. What did Banks do that was so egregious? Well, just like the Democrats in the media love to say they are following the science when it's convenient for them, Jim Banks was following the science as well. He simply called a man, and Twitter suspended him. Here's the story. Representative Jim Banks said Saturday that his official Twitter account had been suspended over a post he made about Department of Health and Human Services Assistant Secretary for Health, Rachel Levine, who is transgender. According to a screenshot posted of the tweet, Banks said the title of first female 4-star officer gets taken by a man, a reference to Levine, who became the U.S. Public Health Service Commissioned Corps' first openly transgender 4-star officer. Representative Banks tweeted, "The title of the first female 4-star officer gets taken by a man." That statement is 100% true. It's just like these boys being allowed to race on girls' track teams. You can pretend all you want, but they are still boys. But that's what Banks posted, and now he's suspended. Correspondent Mary Margaret Olahan posted about the suspension and also included the wording of Twitter's hateful conduct policy. You may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. Promote violence against, threaten, or harass. So tell me, which of those categories applies to Banks, who tweeted out a biologically true statement? Are we now in a country of enforced make-believe? Someone can believe something, but that doesn't make it true. As it turns out, the suspension was on Banks's congressional account, so he turned to his personal account to follow up. Here's more. Banks stood by his decision to issue the tweet. In a statement issued through Twitter on Saturday from his personal account, he said, "My tweet was a statement of fact. Big Tech doesn't have to agree with me, but they shouldn't be able to cancel me. If they silence me, they will silence you." Banks uses Twitter suspension as momentum for Republicans in the 2020 midterms, saying that when Republicans take back the House next year, we must restore honesty to our public forums and hold Big Tech accountable. As of now, it appears that Banks' congressional account is still suspended and science is still science. All right, so next let's talk about the race for Virginia governor, because the Democrats are freaking out and calling out the big guns in order to get help for Terry McAuliffe, to get him across the finish line ahead of Republican Glenn Youngkin. Youngkin has surged in recent weeks thanks to strong campaigning and brilliant messaging, which shows he is in tune with the issues that concern the people of Virginia. Terry McAuliffe has managed to shoot himself in the foot as well, actually multiple times, and that certainly hasn't helped his cause. He stormed out of an interview which just made him look unprofessional and elitist. He also showed his true motives for education when he said parents shouldn't have a voice.
So first of all, this shows how clueless Glenn Youngkin is. He doesn't understand what the laws were because he's never been involved here in helping Virginia. But it was not. The parents had to write to veto bills, veto books, Glenn, not to be knowledgeable about it. also take them off the shelves. And I'm not going to let parents come
vetoed
into
the bill.
schools and actually
You
take
vetoed the
books
bill.
out and make their own decision.
You vetoed it.
So, yeah,
empower
I
parents. You vetoed
stopped the
it.
bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
Now, with the election approaching, any lead that McAuliffe had has evaporated, and the momentum is clearly with Youngkin. Here's the story. The race for a Virginia governor is tied nearly a week before voters go to the polls, a new survey found. GOP candidate Glenn Youngkin and former Democrat Governor Terry McAuliffe each received 48% support among likely Virginia voters, according to Signal polling results released Sunday. The poll also showed Republicans leading Democrats 48.7% to 47.9% on a generic General Assembly ballot. This is great news for Youngkin, and it's also the reason why you see more top Democrats visiting the state and campaigning for McAuliffe. Kamala Harris was in Virginia, and she more than likely broke the law by recording pro-McAuliffe videos designed to be played at black churches. Barack Obama has been campaigning for McAuliffe as well, and that effort will probably actually help Youngkin because Obama is showing that he is just as disconnected as McAuliffe is from concerns that parents have about education. Obama dismissed the controversy in the cover-up in Loudoun County where a girl was assaulted by a transgender student. Obama said it was all fake outrage and phony trumped-up culture wars. Here's more on the polling. The Signal polling results fell in line with other recent surveys saying the Virginia governor's race is a toss-up. A Monmouth University Polling Institute survey released Wednesday showed that Youngkin and McAuliffe each had 46% support. That followed several polls in which McAuliffe held a 5-point lead over Youngkin. A Trafalgar poll released October 14th said Youngkin held a razor-thin lead over McAuliffe. When asked if the election were held tomorrow, who are you most likely to support, 48.4% said Youngkin and 47.5% answered McAuliffe. So that's where things stand with the election just a week and a day away. The Democrats are pulling out all the stops, but the fact that Virginia has become ground zero for critical race theory and rogue school boards and cover-ups certainly has opened parents' eyes and the eyes of voters across the state. Maybe this will be the year that things change. All right, so next, you can tell that journalism is truly dead simply by watching the latest installment of CNN's Reliable Sources program hosted by Brian Stelter. This is a program that actually says it reviews the media and looks for bias and fake news while promoting bias and fake news. It's one of CNN's lowest rated programs, but the fact that it tries to portray itself as legitimate is just mind-blowing. On the program, Stelter talked with LA Times columnist Jackie Collins and proposed that in the name of fairness, both political parties shouldn't be covered equally. The Republicans should be covered more harshly because the party has just become so radical. According to these two, it's only fair to be tougher on the GOP.
There's no question that journalists are recognizing the radicalization of the Republican Party. I think what's changed a little bit is that since Trump left office, there's more of a sense that maybe we're back to normal. But it is, this is not a new problem or a new, dynamic.
Journalists are recognizing the radicalization of the Republican Party. That's just rich, considering the fact that when we had all these BLM riots and lootings and assaults, the Democrats didn't say a word. Democrats are pushing an agenda of defunding the police, open borders, critical race theory, vaccine and mask mandates, and labeling parents as domestic terrorists. Yet, the new normal for journalists is that they are now compelled to cover Republicans more harshly. Here's more.
To be simplistic about it is if you say, well, you reported something that's somewhat critical of Republicans, then you sort of have to say something along the lines of, but both sides do it. Democrats are guilty as well. And for years, that was sort of, simplistically, I was able to do that and everyone else was able to do that. But by increasingly from 1995 on, no, it was asymmetric, as the political scientists call it, and it was more descriptive of Republicans than Democrats.
In other words, journalists can't give equal time to both sides of a story or both political parties, as if they've actually done this in the last 10 or 15 years, but now they are justifying their bias in the name of fairness. Yes, we will now cover Republicans more harshly because they are just plain bad. Is it any wonder that Americans' trust in media is at historic lows? When the media start to justify not being fair and not being unbiased, then you know the profession is dead. Friends, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, but don't forget, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our next show is going to be Wednesday evening at the usual time, 6:30 p.m. Central. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.